Katsuki wasn't sure how he'd ended up in this situation. It had just been a simple invitation, a request to hang out and catch up over dinner. Deku's treat, he had insisted. It wasn't that Katsuki was broke, but it had certainly been a while since he'd been to an actual restaurant. No one to go with, for one. The grueling process of fighting his way up the charts despite his shitty attitude for another. And yeah, okay, he would admit it, the pay was pretty shit. There were so many damn heroes fighting for attention, fighting over villain captures, not to mention having to pay stupidly high insurance costs for his damage-prone quirk. So yeah, after a ton of nagging from the nerd, he'd caved. He'd put on a button-up shirt he managed to unearth in his closet, had combed his hair, not that it made it much more presentable than when he didn't, and had started his walk. Halfway there, in the night breeze, he wished he'd forked out for a ride. He didn't like riding trains and buses at the best of times, not now that his face was considered recognizable and in formal wear. No thank you. Maybe he should have sucked it up, though, or else paid for a taxi. He could spend a little cash once in a while, right? It would just mean cutting back a little on his meal budget next month. More carbs, less fresh fruit and vegetables. It was too late for that now, though, he supposed. He was almost there, and he could suck it up and take a train home when there were less people around. He just had to get through an hour or so of listening to Deku's insane enthusiasm first. "Kachan," Deku bleated the moment he pushed open the front door. "I'm so happy you came." The nerd hadn't changed at all, still short and slim, toned rather than bulky, still baby-faced as hell. "Hey," Katsuki answered finally. The hostess showed them to a table immediately, and Katsuki blushed when Deku pulled the chair out for him with a big grin, as if he did it every day. It was so damn stupid and cheesy, but Katsuki sat down all the same. "I'm so glad you came," Deku reiterated when they were seated opposite each other with drink menus in hand. "It feels like I haven't seen you in forever. Have we met up even once since you moved?" Katsuki shook his head. He hadn't seen much of anybody since he left town. Maruko had offered to let him be her sidekick despite her general stance against teaming up with people, and he'd had to admit it was a damn good offer. They worked well together, had similar personalities, both worked incredibly hard and weren't afraid to throw down with people who deserved it. He loved his job, even if the hours were awful and the pay was almost as bad. "Yeah, well," he snorted quietly. "Wasn't gonna pass up free food, was I?" Deku giggled, signaling to the waitress, and Katsuki finally glanced down at his menu. "Do you drink, Kachan?" Deku asked. "Sometimes," he nodded. "I try not to do it too often." "Of course. But we can share some nice wine, right? A toast to our careers finally taking off." "Yeah." He knew the words were meant genuinely, but they stung all the same. Deku had hardly even needed to try to get noticed. He was All Might's successor, after all. He didn't need to be a sidekick. He just smiled sweetly and beat up assholes. Katsuki watched as Deku ordered a bottle of wine that just sounded expensive. He'd never even heard of the damn brand. Not that he was exactly a wine connoisseur. He'd have to do some research next time the nerd was in town. "Did you want anything else, Kachan?" "No. Thanks. Wine is good." "Okay." With a little bow, the waitress stepped away, and Deku turned his full attention back on Katsuki. "Tell me about work." "Moroko's cool," he began, well aware that it was exactly what the nerd was looking to hear. We are similar. We fight a lot, but it's good." "Are you her first sidekick?" "She tried a few before me, but it didn't work out." "She seems to like you, though." Deku grinned. "As she should. Everyone should love Kachan." "Shut up, idiot," he scoffed. "It won't last forever. Neither of us is really the teamwork type." "But she chose you herself." That was fair. Plenty of people had begged her, after all. He knew for a fact that a certain purple-haired cretin had begged her for months until she punched him in the face, and that was after he'd gotten the same reaction from Mount Lady. "We talked about it," he answered truthfully. She wants to help me get a foot in the door, and then we'll part amicably before we get sick of each other." "I never would have guessed." Deku gaped at him, eyes wide. "That's so nice." "Yeah. I just hit the top 100 when she called. She wants to get me into the top 50, so I guess when I hit 50 we'll go our separate ways." Deku had been in the top 50 a month after graduation, but Katsuki knew he wouldn't mention that. "That won't be much longer." Deku grinned instead. "You're climbing so fast. Are you excited to go out on your own? Are you going to come back home? We need more good heroes. It's super rough around Tokyo." "I don't know yet. Hadn't thought about it." "Well, if you need to talk about it, you know where to find me. I don't mind listening to you get your ideas straight." Thanks, I guess." The waitress returned, and Deku turned to thank her as she filled their glasses. For the first time in the night, Katsuki noticed Deku's suit, clearly brand new, and if he correctly remembered years of nonsense from his parents, expensive. It was practically made for him, or maybe it was. It was perfectly tailored, if not. Showed off his slim waist, and the dark charcoal of his jacket made his eyes seem extra bright. He smiled when he caught Katsuki looking. Katsuki turned away with a huff, leaning on his hand to hide his warm cheeks. He felt like they were on a goddamn date with the way the idiot looked at him, so full of warmth and freaking love. Then again, he was paying. Shit. "Am I supposed to fuck you after this or some shit?" he muttered, a little relieved when Deku laughed rather than agree. "Did you come here even with that in your head?" Deku teased. "You must be really hungry. Or thirsty." Katsuki nearly spat out his wine at the way the nerd said it, freaking winking at him when he huffed his unamused sigh. "Maybe I just thought I'd throw the damn dog a bone," he countered. "Maybe it'll shut you up for a while." Deku laughed, and Katsuki buried his face in a menu, a little alarmed when he saw the prices listed by each item. He'd known the place was fancy from the quick search he'd done on his phone, but wow. "My treat," Deku reminded him, catching a glimpse of the alarm in his face. "I got a nice bonus at work, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend it than on a super yummy dinner with my oldest friend." "Then buy me the lobster." Katsuki smirked, stabbing his finger at the ridiculous price tag. "If you're so damn well off these days." "Really? I didn't take you for a lobster man. Or have you never tried it before?" "Doesn't matter." "No." Deku smiled wryly. "I can always buy you something else if you don't like it." "Cheeky piece of shit. Let me guess, you've eaten all this fancy crap during your world travels." Deku had spent his first year as a pro jetting around the world to contribute to various hero projects under All Might's guidance. He'd even dragged his mother along with him, and to be honest, Katsuki had never seen him go happier. "I have," Deku agreed easily. "There's lots of yummy food out there. Me and Mom wanted to try it all. I gained almost 10 kilograms in Europe, but it was so worth it." "You're still tiny," Katsuki snorted. "You need the extra 10. "You're not." Deku grinned, leaning in closer as his eyes raked up and down Katsuki's torso. "I knew you'd gotten buff from TV, but watching you walk in the door just now? Holy shit, Gachun, you got strong." Katsuki found himself blushing again at the praise, feeling oddly like some kind of zoo exhibit under Deku's gaze. Or maybe one of those particularly tasty dishes the man had just been talking about. "Let me order for you," Deku continued as if nothing had happened. "I'll pick you something really good, I promise." "Whatever floats your damn boat, nerd." Deku actually clapped in his glee, like a damn child. "You won't regret it," Deku ordered with confidence when the waitress returned, rattling off starters and mains and even desserts. Katsuki wasn't sure he'd ever seen the nerd so bold before, without the stuttering or awkward smiles. It was kind of hot. Katsuki hated to admit it, but Deku had been right. Everything he'd eaten had been delicious, even things he'd given a skeptical look when they were set down on the table. He practically licked the plates. Deku had watched on gleefully as Katsuki enjoyed himself, waiting until dessert was on the table before he broached the subject. "I'm gonna be in town for a week," he began, watching Katsuki tense up. You need a place to stay? Katsuki asked awkwardly. I mean, yeah, I guess. I only have one bedroom, but I can sleep on the couch. I'll probably be up before you in the morning anyway. I have a hotel. Deku grinned. But thank you. Oh. Katsuki blinked, oddly concerned. Why did the nerd feel the need to mention it if not for a bed? Could we hang out again? Katsuki wasn't sure why the word shocked him so much. I guess. He huffed. You gonna take me on another dinner date? If you want. Deku giggled. But you'll have to dress up nice for me again. Katsuki's fingers gripped at his shirt lightly, strangely self-conscious all of a sudden. This cheesecake is so good. Deku marveled, humming to himself as he took another bite. I had this stupidly expensive cheesecake in America, and it was great, but not nearly worth the price tag. This is just as good, maybe better. Katsuki watched as Deku reached across the table and took his spoon, scooping off a big piece from the untouched side and holding it across the table. Try it, Kachan. The nerd didn't offer him the handle, and for some stupid reason, Katsuki played along. He leaned in and accepted, licking it off the spoon and nodding his agreement. Yeah, that's good. Super sweet, though. Uh-huh. That's why I only eat a little piece. Deku grinned. How's yours? Katsuki's dessert was less sugary. A fluffy little coffee cake topped with caramel toffee. His first bite had made him reconsider his stance against dessert. Really good, he admitted as he accepted his spoon back. Do you want to try some? If Kachan doesn't mind sharing. His eyes glittered as he said it, and Katsuki huffed quietly. I learned to share in kindergarten, he argued, reaching for Deku's spoon. The only thing I won't share is the number one spot in your eating utensils. I know. Deku grinned. Wouldn't want nerd germs. Shut up. All the same, he scooped off a generous piece of his cake, making sure it had plenty of the sticky caramel on top before he yelled it out. A small part of him expected the scarred hand to reach for it, but it was sorely mistaken. Deku leaned in, moaning sinfully when he took the bite of cake between his lips, covering his mouth and closing his eyes as he savored it. Katsuki watched him with wide eyes as he swallowed, licking toffee from his lips. Amazing, Deku agreed. I don't even like coffee much. I know you do, Mr. Caffeine Addict, but that was so soft. Yeah, Katsuki agreed, setting the spoon down on Deku's plate. You, chose well. I know you, Kachan. Deku teased, his smile much softer than his earlier ones. I've always known you. You think I don't know what you like to eat? I never said that, just you did good, is all. Deku refused to let Katsuki see the bill when they wrapped up their dinner. He just slid a pile of cash across the counter and made a ridiculously obvious attempt at distracting him, blocking his view while the lady counted notes. You're an idiot, he huffed. But thanks for dinner. Thanks for coming, Deku beamed. I had so much fun. Can we have dinner again tomorrow? My treat again, of course. Katsuki found himself nodding before he'd even really considered it, and Deku was grinning again, eyes squinting to accommodate it as the soft restaurant light danced on his freckles. Let me walk you to your car. Deku smiled. I don't want it to end. I, walked here. Oh, you live nearby? I had no idea. Near enough. They stepped through the front door and Katsuki froze, staring up at the dark sky. I'll drive you, Deku insisted, bowing when one of the parking attendants approached with an umbrella to cover them. It's no trouble, I swear. I have nothing to do until my meeting in the morning. You drive? Deku grinned again, nodding. All Might taught me in America. It's a little different here, but I got the hang of it quickly. I like it better, actually. Drivers in America are so rude. People here are much more polite. The rain was pretty heavy, Katsuki had to admit. He could run home, sure, but in his leather shoes and fancy shirt, it would be a pretty unenjoyable experience. Fine, he conceded. Drive carefully, nerd. I always do. And so he found himself in the passenger seat of a sleek forest green car, sneaking glances at the freckled face beside him, at the shining smile lit up by the passing street lamps and headlights as they made their way down the road. Thanks, Katsuki choked out when they pulled up beside his old apartment complex. The building was almost embarrassingly run down. He was pretty sure the nerd's car cost more than it would to buy his apartment outright. For dinner, too. My pleasure, Deku assured him. I'll pick you up here tomorrow at 7. Don't back out on me. You don't have to pick me. I want to, Deku interjected. Then we can talk some more on the way there. All right, tomorrow then. Deku waited, smiling and waving until Katsuki was safely inside the lobby. He didn't start to pull away until the door was closed behind him. A stupid gesture, really, considering Katsuki was a hero. Habit, though, he supposed. As he kicked off his shoes and tore off his clothes in the apartment entryway, he found himself thinking about that damn smile. It was so genuine, and he kind of hated it. When was the last time someone had been so happy to see him? His friends, maybe, the last time he visited his parents. He'd conceded to Ichiro's nagging about going out for drinks, and they'd all bombarded him with hugs and tears as they whined him for not visiting often enough. Deku hadn't done that, he realized. No tears, no hugs, just the brightest of smiles and his typical glow of joy. He wasn't sure Deku had ever forced a hug on him, in fact, even though he knew he could get away with it. So damn considerate. As he lay back on his bed in his boxers, letting out a loud sigh with a hand on his comfortably full stomach, he couldn't seem to get that damn face out of his head. When had the nerd gotten so cute? Katsuki wasn't sure how he'd ended up in this situation. They'd had another fancy dinner, with Deku decked out in another brand new suit, this time navy blue. The nerd brought 2 suits with him on his work trip. Ridiculous. It had just been a simple invite back to his hotel to check out the fancy onsen, and maybe have coffee, or tea, he guessed, since the nerd wasn't really a coffee fan. And it had been great, sitting in the hot water, chatting about work. He wasn't sure when things had changed between them, but as they stood in the elevator on their way up to his room, a scarred hand had rested on his lower back. And for some reason, Katsuki hadn't pushed him away. You looked really handsome tonight, Deku told him, as if the words were no big deal, as if he had said them every day. And now, of course. You're cute when your hair's all floppy like this. It's getting long. Is that on purpose? He toyed with the damp strands, and Katsuki still didn't stop him. Needs cutting, he mumbled, running his own hand through it in an attempt to spike it back up. It never behaved right after he washed it, or, well, after someone else did. He still felt warm from Deku's gentle touch, humming as he lathered up the blonde spikes. Been too busy? Deku asked, moving from playing with his hair to petting it fondly. I know you're always swamped at work. I'm happy you could find time for me. 2 nights in a row with that. Yeah, well, you have good taste in food. Katsuki smirked. And apparently a fat wallet. Deku laughed, and when the elevator door opened, he led the way down the hall to his suite. He tapped the key card over the reader and waved Katsuki in ahead of himself, letting him survey his surroundings. It was clean and white, a lot bigger than his studio apartment, without even a speck of dust or a hair out of place. Fancy, Katsuki mumbled, catching a little smile as Deku headed to the kitchen and turned on the jug. You get left a ton of money by some rich uncle I don't know about or some shit. No, Deku laughed. But every time I finished an international job, I got a big bonus that went into my savings account, so I'm still getting interest on that. Plus, work pays for my flights and hotels and stuff, so everything I earn has gone into savings instead of on bills. And, well, I know I'm only 10th, but as you know, the higher you get in rankings, the more you start to get paid. He paused for a moment to pour hot water, sliding a mug across the bench to Katsuki when it was ready. Are you having money problems, Kachan? I'm not sure if you're just teasing or not. Not problems, Katsuki huffed. I'm fine. I'm just not this. Deku hummed to himself, sitting down on the couch and dragging Katsuki with him. I missed your birthday this year. I was in China, I think, or maybe Korea. That's fine. You know I don't give a shit about birthdays. I know. I was just thinking I should get you a present. I'm not taking your fucking money. I'm not desperate. Don't you fucking dare. I'm not stupid, Kachan. Deku snorted. I wasn't gonna offer you cash. I was just thinking I haven't seen you relax in a long time. Until our bath. You could use a massage or something. I don't do that dumb shit. No kidding. Deku smirked, watching Katsuki pout a little in response. You have tomorrow afternoon off, right? I'm gonna book you a spa appointment. Just give it a try. I know you don't need anything, Kachan. I just want to. You've done so much for me since we were kids. Playing with me at lunch when no one else would, pushing me at high school, all those extra trainings outside class time. You even helped me study before our final exams. Let me do something nice for you for once. You already bought me dinner twice. But I do that for all my friends. You're special. Katsuki scowled, but he knew Deku's mind was made up. There was nothing he could do to talk the nerd out of it at this point. You can cook for me after. Deku grinned. I haven't had home cooking in a long time. Especially Kachan's cooking. Fine. Just give me a shopping list and I'll pick it all up. I can do the damn shopping, he growled. Don't do the shit. But Kachan... No, cut the shit. I'll buy the food and I'll cook the damn dinner. You just gotta let me use this fancy kitchen. Okay, it's a deal. And so the next morning he got a text bright and early. It had an address and a time, along with a bunch of emojis he was far too tired to decipher. But he obeyed all the same. He showed up at a little day spa and changed into the robe they gave him, lying down in a dimly lit room with a sigh. Part of him had wanted to be stubborn, wanted to refuse, or just not show up. It did sound kind of nice, though. A massage to loosen all his tense muscles after some rough days at work, to ease the dull ache that had started to grow in his upper back. What he hadn't expected was everything else the nerd had paid for. If the place had offered happy endings, he was sure the nerd would have even put that on the list. The manicure and pedicure had been a little weird. He wasn't used to people being so weirdly intimate with his fingers and toes, but the facial had been kind of nice, despite the weird smell. He felt clean, as if a layer of dirt and sweat had soaked into him over the weeks and it had finally been cleared away with that sticky mask. He got his hair cut, too. He should have known the nerd would handle it after he brought it up the night prior. By the time he left the building, he felt thoroughly scrubbed and polished. Everything was soft, from his skin to his muscles, and as he walked through the aisles of the grocery store, he felt oddly exposed, like everyone was staring at him, wondering why the hell a top 100 hero had spent the afternoon at a spa. You look so good, Deku praised the moment he opened the hotel door. Wow, Kachan. You clean up so nicely. Shut up, you damn nerd. It's relaxing, right? He continued, ignoring the grumbled complaint. Everything feels so light after they work out all that tension. I bet your skin must be super soft. Let me feel. Katsuki blushed bright red when the hands cupped his cheeks, fawning over how smooth they felt as if he were oblivious to Katsuki's embarrassment. With your mother's quirk in you, you've always had nice skin, he mumbled to himself, fingertips trailing lightly down Katsuki's neck. But you're glowing now, and it's so pretty, Kachan. You should go do this all the time. Maybe I'll book a regular appointment. Every month you can go back and get all pretty again. You won't say no if I've already paid for it, right? And you can send me pictures if I'm away. What the fuck are you mumbling about? Oh, sorry. I got carried away. Deku flashed him a smile, finally taking his hands off and leaving Katsuki cold. Are you gonna cook for me, Kachan? Yeah. What a good boy. Shut up. He headed for the kitchen, letting Deku hover as he set up his things but keeping him carefully away from the food and the knives. He half listened to the babble that was going on, but mostly he focused on chopping and stirring and frying. It took far too long for Deku to catch on, tearing up when he smelled the familiar sauce cooking. Kachan, he pleaded. Katsudon? Yeah, nerd. Kachan is amazing. It had been a long time since he'd heard those words, and it made him blush a little, glancing back to where Deku stared at him with admiration. Can I hug you? The nerd asked, with a hint of nerves. Just a little? If you want. Deku's arms crept around him, holding him tight as he leaned into the broad chest. Katsuki's pecs made a perfect pillow. He could have stayed there all night if he thought Katsuki would let him. Can we still talk when I have to leave? Deku asked quietly. I don't want to let you go anymore. Yeah, we can talk. And will you send me pictures? Huh? Of what? Of you. I want to see you look all pretty for me again. And looking hot and sweaty after a workout, and in your costume after a big fight. I want to see Kachan's face. That's stupid. What if I buy them from you? Katsuki snorted, turning away, but Deku hugged him tighter. I'm not kidding. People do it. I'll help with your bills. And you just have to send me selfies sometimes. It's a thing. You want to be my sugar daddy or some shit? Deku swallowed hard, and Katsuki's eyes widened when he saw the nod. I promise it won't be weird. Maybe it'll take a little getting used to, but I like spoiling you, Kachan. I want to buy you nice things. Yummy food and presents that'll make you blush all cute like this. He finally conceded his grip, letting Katsuki go back to cooking with his flushed cheeks and the little crease in his forehead that betrayed how hard he was thinking. Don't people like that usually fuck? Sometimes, I think. Deku nodded. I don't know much about it. Mostly just stuff I came across down weird internet rabbit holes. I didn't think much of it until I bought you dinner the first time, and it was just so fun seeing you flustered. I want to do it more. Katsuki went silent again, focusing his attention on dishing out food instead of talking, setting the table for them both with food and a bottle of wine the lady at the store had recommended. Deku pulled the chair out for him again, and Katsuki sat. I don't want money, he finally said as Deku took his first bite. That seems weird. Oh, okay. I guess I can send pictures. He continued, toying with his rice. And if you want, you can send me gifts or whatever. Deku's smile barely fit his face when Katsuki looked up awkwardly and he leaned across the table to press a tiny kiss to his forehead. I'm excited, Kachan. He supposed that was how he ended up in this situation, technically.